Hi, friends. Welcome to season 3, episode 2 of Dysfunction Exposed. I'm Emma J, and here we are. I'm at high school, and everything was as normal, she says, in inverted commas, because those of you who are listening cannot see that. As normal as it could possibly be for my life, anyway. So, all is well in the world, and I'm coming up to choosing my options. I'm in year 9, I'm just turned 14, pretty much. And whilst I was going through that period of my life, this one came as an absolute smack in the dick, let me tell you. Because even though I'm giggling about it, it's a really heavy subject. My dad was diagnosed with bowel cancer when I was 14. And I'm going to get into that day and how it unfolded. So I remember coming back from school, and it was a Friday night, and I was buzzing because I just wanted to get on the park with my mates, because that's what we did on the Friday night. Someone would get someone to go to the shop, we'd be drinking fucking White Lightning or Lambrini or whatever was the cheapest at the time. We'd have 10 Richmond Super Kings in our pockets, and that'd be us for a few hours. We'd be quite happy. And this particular evening, it was freezing, it was autumn, winter time. I think it must have been about November, I don't know why, but November sits. Anyway. So I'd gone out as usual, but my dad had said to me before I left, "Yeah, no worries, have a good time, Em. I'll see you when you get back." But his tone was different. And I was like, what? My spidey senses are tingling, like something's not quite right here. And I only lasted an hour on the park before I was like, nah, something's wrong, I've got to go home. So off I toddled back to the house. And when I got there, my dad, my brother, and my dad's girlfriend at the time were all sat on the sofas, and I walked in, and there was that energy in the room, like, who fucking died? You can feel it straight away, like something's definitely off. So I got the whole, sit down, Emma, I need to talk to you. Okay. And he looked at me and he said, "This is the situation. I've been told I've got bowel cancer and I've got 6 months to live." Now, as you can imagine, getting that news as a child is absolutely fucking devastating. And because of the situation I was in, being that my dad was my sole caregiver and I didn't really see my mum anymore, she just fucking gave up on me. That's a hopeless cause, off it goes kind of scenario. So in my mind, when he was told he had 6 months to live, there was two initial feelings that sprung. Obviously, devastation. Like, I'm just distraught. Like, what am I gonna do? Am I gonna go into care? Like what's gonna happen to me? But also that sadness, like, I'm gonna lose my dad. This can't be real. But it was. And he was going for his chemo. And about a quarter of a way through that process, he sat me down again and he said, "Emma, look, I know this chemotherapy is going to kill me before this cancer does. But being 14, couldn't really grasp what he was saying. But that's what he chose to do, and body autonomy, that was his right. That was his right to do it. And yeah, he just stopped. He was like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to die before I die. And that now makes perfect sense. Like, why would I pump a shit ton of disease into my body to try and fight the disease that's already in there? And on one hand, logic kind of makes sense to me. But then on the other hand, science and medicine. And I'm not an expert on the latter subjects, so I couldn't really delve any further deeper into that if I wanted to. But at the same time, because it was such a vital kind of period in my school life as well, it's that time where you're trying to be more responsible, you're trying to kind of do your own shit and live a bit more independently. Like, I'm 14. I was out doing my own shit with my friends, just getting on with it. But at school, they assigned me this worker. And I never really understood what she was for. She never really kind of told me what she was there for. But I absolutely loved this woman, because the feelings that were soon brought up in me on the back of my dad telling me he had cancer were very angry. I was quite a ragey person, like, why the fuck is this happening to me? Why is it happening to me? And my life's going to be shit, and it is shit. And what was the fucking point? And this woman, when I got to that point in class, when I was obviously having a bad day and I couldn't necessarily deal with the emotion because I'd never been taught to do that. What a weird thing to say. I've never been taught to handle emotion. Now, in that situation where it's like crisis point, you obviously look to your elder for like the reassurance, like, I appreciate this is happening, but what do we do? Like, how do we make sure that we get the best possible memories and get to spend as much time together before you actually pass? Because that was a thing. I had 6 months to process that my dad was going to die. And yeah, my head fell off, rolled down the hill, fucking went. Absolutely went. And I think at that point as well, what didn't help in regards to the anger that I was feeling is that my mum wasn't really a support in this either. It wasn't as though she stepped up because she had to. No, her and my sister came to visit like once, and that was it. That was them done. Okay, he's got cancer. Cool. Bye. Off they went. And that didn't leave me with a lot of reassurance either, because, hi, I'm still a child in all this, and who's going to fucking look after me? So again, the cogs start ticking. Well, I'm probably going to have to fucking learn to look after myself at this point, because there's no one else. And when you've been in that situation as a child, people cannot understand the depths of your mental health and the roller coaster it fucking takes you on, especially when you're so young, because half of you is like, yeah, no one can fuck with me, no one can tell me what to do. But then on the other side, it's that time in your life where you are so desperate for guidance. Like, regardless of whether you want to hear it or not, that whole teenage period forms who you are. And you learn from the environment you're in, which gives us a very tunnel visioned kind of view. However, that is what it is. It's that in the education system. So there we are. And because my dad didn't deal with the emotion, I could not deal with that emotion. However, plot twist. Because my dad was my dad, he outlived the 6-month expectation on the back of stopping his chemo. And he then decided he wasn't going to live in the UK because he didn't want to die in the UK. Okay. Let's fucking debunk this, shall we? So, my parent was told he was dying, had 6 months to live, managed to outdo that. Fate, what a fucking wonderful thing. But then decided he was going to fucking abandon me anyway to go and live the rest of his life in Cyprus, where he was happy because he was so unhappy in the UK that even his own flesh and blood could not make that any better. Oh, okay. So, adding to this fear, this anxiety, this abandonment, now on a fucking 100, everything around that diagnosis was like, oh shit, my world just fucking exploded in 10 minutes. And if you're a person who has been fortunate enough not to have to deal with being solely responsible for yourself at a very young age, like, I was still taking myself to school and he was in fucking Cyprus, bro. Like, no one knew because I had my routine down. Like, down to a point where no one ever questioned anything because I just did it myself. It wasn't like I wasn't going to school. I was just getting up and going to school as normal. Even when he was flitting in and out of the country, because he knew that he couldn't stay out of the UK for too long because that way he wouldn't get his NHS treatment. So he kept flying in and out. Well, some would say genius. Others would say fucking master manipulator of the system. And I'm going to dig a bit more into Cyprus and what that led to for me and my dad in the next episode. However, for today, for episode 2, that is all you're getting. My name's Emma J. This has been Dysfunction Exposed, and I will see you next week for episode 3. Have a great week.